everybody. Boker Tov. Good morning to all on this beautiful but muted in our exuberance because of the events that are happening in our world and in our country and in our homes. And yet the story of the Jewish people continues to unfold each and every day, and the wisdom of our liturgical literature and liturgical cycle enable us to be able to separate from the daily activities and the daily experiences that we all encounter in order to turn to both the eternal and the spiritual as well. In a moment, we'll begin our worship, but before we do, I want to first give thanks to Cantor Martha Novick, my partner in crime in these beautiful services. It's always and continues to be a special privilege and honor to share in the services with you, Martha, and
the honor is mine.
The congregation. And special thanks to Mandy Zucker and Jackie Gross for handling the technical aspects of the service. Mandy will be our page turner today, and if perchance she turns to a page where we are not, where we haven't yet arrived, it's okay, because she may turn to a page that has something even more beautiful than what we had originally planned. So we should not be taken aback by any surprises that may come along. This is not for any of us our area of expertise, but it is certainly our area of Ahavat Yisrael, of our love for the people of Israel. Last night, after a beautiful service welcoming Shavuot, we entered into a number of different rooms, so to speak, for Leil Tikkun Shavuot, for the opportunity to engage in preparation and repair for Shavuot, just as our ancestors did when they waited at the foot of Mount Sinai for Moses to come down and for them to receive the tablets. I'll talk about that more later in our service. But I had the privilege to teach about the book of Ruth, perhaps one of the most beautiful, short, but beautiful texts in our biblical tradition. And I prefaced the teaching with a couple of definitions. I define belief as that which we know to be true. And I explain that belief is not about science versus religion. Belief is about the side of us, our hearts and our brains, that speaks to the spiritual nature of the human being, not simply to the physical nature. And that belief is what we know to be true. Faith is the language that we use to articulate our belief. By the way, I added that religion is the institutionalization of our faith and our belief, nothing more. Religious institutions are just that. They are institutions. By the way, when they're at their best, there's nothing better. And when they are at their worst, there is also nothing worse. But they are nothing more, just as computers, when they are at their best, are absolutely great. They can connect us, as they do this morning, in extraordinary ways. And when they are at their worst, they're nothing more than a piece of junk to be thrown into the garbage. And I'm sure every one of us have encountered an affectionate moment with our computer where all we wanted to do was unplug it and throw it in the garbage. So today we are engaging in sharing with the historical journey of our people through the faith language that articulates our belief. We are celebrating Shavuot, the moment of Matan Toratenu, the moment of the giving of the Torah at the foot of Mount Sinai. More to be said about that later. But now let us prepare for Shavuot, our worship experience, our faith experience, the language sung and read, so beautifully given to us by our tradition and shared now by each and every one of us. We begin with these words. Now Mount Sinai was all in smoke, for Adonai had come down upon it in fire. Torah given amidst fire is compared to fire. Just as fire lives forever, so do the words of Torah live forever. When one draws near to fire, one is burned by it, just as we have witnessed in the last 24 hours in Minneapolis. When one moves away from fire, one is chilled. So on Shavuot, we warm ourselves by the light, if you will, the fire of Torah, our very precious heritage. We continue on page 418 as we join in these words of Bilam, the biblical character who was called upon by Balak, the hater of Israel, to speak and scream out words of curse against the people of Israel. And Bilam opened his mouth and out came these words, Matovu ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. How beautiful, how wonderful are your tents, O Jacob, your dwellings of Israel. Let us join in singing them together now. We continue now on page 424. These prayers known as Nisim B'chol Yom, the prayers for all of the daily miracles that we experience, are intended to center ourselves so that we move away from the secular, we move away from the profane, we move away from the everyday activities that range from taking out the garbage to yelling at our children to being unhappy with things that otherwise are very little and small in our lives, to recognizing instead the absolute wonders of being alive. Nisim b'chol yom. And by the way, at the conclusion of each of the blessings that Cantor Novick will sing, I invite everyone to join in our chanting Amen. Page 424.
אשר נתן לשכל ובינה להבחין בין יום ובין לילה.
Amen.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם פוקח עברים.
Amen.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם מתיר אסורים.
Amen.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם זוקף כפופים.
Amen.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם רוקע הארץ על המים.
Amen. 426.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם המכין מצעדי גבר.
Amen.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם מלביש הרומים.
Amen.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם הנותן ליעף כוח.
Amen.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם המעביר שינה מעיניי ותנומה מעפעפיי.
Amen. 428.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שעשני בצלם אלוהים.
Amen.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שעשני בת חורין.
Amen.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שעשני ישראל.
Amen.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם עוזר ישראל בגבורה.
Amen.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם עוטר ישראל בתפארה.
Amen. 430. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu, la'asok b'divrei Torah, and we chant, Amen.
Amen.
O Adonai, our God, let the words of Torah be sweet in our mouths and the mouths of your people Israel, so that we, our descendants, and the descendants of all your people Israel, may know you by studying your Torah for its own sake. Blessed are you, Adonai, who teaches Torah to our people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, hamalamed Torah la'amo Yisrael. And together we say, Amen.
Amen.
We continue on page 439. Together we say, countries grow old and fall apart. Nations decline, torn. Generations grow moss and gather dust. Still, every morning, a chapter of Psalms stands by the window in the synagogue and intones its eternal chant over all of the world's tears. We continue on page 451 with the words of Chatzi Kaddish.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה.
Amen.
ועל מה דיברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי כל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו
Amen.
יהי שמרה במבורך לעולם לעולמיה, יתברך וישתבח, יתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה.
Barichu.
לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבתה ונחמתה, דהמירן בעלמה אמרו.
Amen. We continue with the Baruch Hu on page 452, and all may rise in body or in spirit.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך, ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
We turn now to this prayer about the incredible miracle of the creation of the world on page 454, known simply by its most important name, Yotzer HaMeorot. Baruch Ata Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Yotzer or uvorei choshech, Oseh shalom uvorei et hakol. Hameir la'aretz v'ladarim aleha barachamim, uvtuvo mechadesh b'chol yom tamid ma'aseh v'reshit. Ma rabu ma'asecha Adonai, kulam b'chochma asita, malah ha'aretz kinyanecha, titbarach Adonai Eloheinu, al shevach ma'aseh yadecha, va'al me'orei or she'asita yifa'arucha selah, or chadash al Zion ta'ir, v'nischechu lanu mehera le'oro.
Baruch atah Adonai, Yotzer HaMeorot.
Amen. Page 456. Together we read at the bottom of the page, enlighten our eyes with your Torah, focus our minds on your mitzvot, unite our hearts in love and reverence for your name. Then we will never feel shame, never deserve rebuke, and never stumble, having trusted in your great and awesome holiness. We shall celebrate your salvation with joy. Gather us in peace from the four corners of the earth, and lead us upright to our land. For you, O God, work wonders. You chose us. Truly, you drew us near to your great name, that we might acknowledge you, declaring you one in love.
Baruch atah Adonai, habocher be'amo Yisrael be'ahava. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai echad. Baruch Shem kevod malchuto la'olam va'ed.
Please be seated. We continue on page 460.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בהם בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
We continue on page 463. If people fall, can they not also rise? If they break away, can they not return? The stork in the sky knows when to migrate. The dove and the swallow know the seasons of return. What human instinct knows the time to turn back? What cue sparks the conscience of the soul? We pray now to sense this day anew, attuned to the call of sacred living. We continue on page 465. I, Adonai, have called you to righteousness and taken you by the hand and kept you. I have made you a covenant people, a light to the nations. And we respond with, we are Israel, witness to God's covenant with our people. This is the covenant I make with Israel. I will place my Torah in your midst and write it upon your hearts. I will be your God, and you will be my people. And we respond with, we are Israel.
We are Israel.
Our Torah forbids.
It's the worship of race or nation, possessions or power.
Hate evil and love what is good. Let justice well up as waters, and righteousness as a mighty stream. And we respond with, we are Israel.
We are Israel, ruled in the suffering of the oppressed.
Violence shall no longer be heard in your land, we pray. Desolation and destruction within your borders, we also hope. All your children shall be taught of Adonai, and great shall be the peace of your children. And we respond with, we are
Israel, O God. We are witnesses to your will, messengers of your truth.
You are my witnesses, says Adonai, and my servant whom I have chosen. Know me, therefore, and put your trust in me. And we respond with, we are Israel.
We are Israel, O God, and we proclaim you the God of freedom, as did our ancestors on the shores of the sea.
Mi chamocha elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, norati lot osef eleh. שירה חדשה שיבחו גאולים, לשמך על שפת הים, יחד כולם הודו והמליכו ויאמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. צור ישראל, כל מה בעזרת ישראל, ופדי חינומך, יהודה וישראל, גואלי Adonai Tzvaot Shemo Kadosh Israel Baruch Atah Adonai Ga'al Yisrael.
Amen. We continue on page 467. When we stood at the foot of the raging waters of the sea and sang those words of Mi Chamocha, just as we sang a moment ago, this is what we were considering. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught, even before ever we stood at Sinai, that wherever we are, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there, except by joining hands and marching together. We continue on page 468. As we rise, either in body or in spirit, and join together in the Amidah, the Tefillah, on page 468.
Adonai Sefatai Tiftach Ufi Yagi Tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise.
Page 470.
Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor v'Hanora, Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei HaKol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, U'mevi Geula livnei v'nehem, Lema'an Shemo v'Ahava, Melech Ozer u'Moshiach u'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Bezrat Sarah.
Amen. Page 470.
Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol atarav le'Hoshia, Morit atal, Mechakel chayim bechesed, Mechayeh HaKol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim berofei cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato vishenei afar, Michamocha ba'al givurot, Umido melach, Melech mimit umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, Emanata lehachayot hakol, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol.
Before we get to the Kedusha, the high point of this section of the service, we turn to page 473 and recite this blessing together as part of the three pilgrimage festivals, Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot. Your might, O God, renews the earth. With dewdrops of light and blessing, let the earth now be illumined and blessed. With dewdrops of joy and delight, let the earth rejoice and sing out. With dewdrops of life and well-being, let the earth be revived and improved. With dewdrops of redemption, let the earth be redeemed. Livracha velo liklala, for blessing and not for curse. L'chaim velo lamavet, for life and not death. L'sova velo l'razon, for abundance and not for want. And now,
Amen.
Kedusha, page 474.
נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וכרז זה ואמר, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוך כל הארץ, כבודו.
476.
אדיר, אדירנו, אדוני, אדוננו, מאדיר שמך בכל הארץ, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. אחד הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו, הוא מלכנו, הוא מושיענו והוא ישענו, ברחמיו לעיני כל חי. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהיך ציון, לדור ודור. הללויה. לדור ודור. לדור ודור. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך. לדור ודור. לדור ודור. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך. ולנצח נצחים, ולנצח נצחים, קדושתך נקדיש, בשבחך אלוהינו, מפינו לא ימוש, לא ימוש לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
Amen. Please be seated. Page 478.
אתה וחרתנו מכל העמים, אהבת אותנו ורצית בנו, ורוממתנו מכל הלשונות, וקידשתנו במצוותיך, וקרבתנו מלכנו לעבודתך, בשמך הגדול והקדוש עלינו קראת, ותיתן לנו אדוני אלוהינו באהבה, מועדים לשמחה, חגים וזמנים לששון, את יום חג השבועות הזה, זמן מתן תורתנו מקרא קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים.
Page 479. I mentioned before that this day of Shavuot is one of the three pilgrimage festivals in which we are invited, the entire Jewish people, to return to Israel. And so our prayer book, our liturgy, shares with us these words. One does not travel to Jerusalem. One returns, makes pilgrimage. One ascends the roads taken by generations, the path of longing on the way to redemption. One brings rucksacks stuffed with memories to each mountain and each hill. In the cobbled white alleyways, one offers a blessing for memories of the past, which have been renewed, Yes, one does not travel to Jerusalem. Instead, one returns. We continue on page 480.
Eloheinu v'Elokei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Ya'aleh v'yavo v'yizacher zichronenu, v'zichron kol amcha beit Yisrael lefanecha, לטובה ולחן ולחסד ולרחמים ולחיים ולשלום ביום חג השבועות הזה. זוכרנו אדוני אלוהינו בו לטובה.
Amen.
ופוקדנו בו לברכה.
Amen.
והושיענו בו לחיים.
This day remember us for well-being. This day bless us with your nearness. This day help us to a fuller life. And we say together, Amen. We continue on page 481.
ועשיינו אדוני אלוהינו את ברכת מועדיך לחיים ולשלום, לשמחה ולששון, כאשר רצית ואמרת לברכנו, אלוהינו אבותינו ואמותינו, קדשנו במצוותיך ותן חלקנו בתורתך, צווינו מטובך ושמחנו בישועתך, וטהר ליבנו, וטהר ליבנו, וטהר ליבנו לעובדך באמת, וטהר ליבנו, וטהר ליבנו, וטהר ליבנו לעובדך באמת. והנחילנו אדוני אלוהינו בשמחה ובששון מועדי קודשך, וישמחו בך ישראל מקדשי שמך, ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש ישראל והזמנים.
We continue on page 485. Dalecha, know this, that each and every shepherd has a unique melody of his own. Know this, that every blade of grass has a unique song of its own. And from the song of the grass comes the melody of the shepherd. How beautiful and pleasant it is when one hears their song. It is very good to pray among them and enjoy to serve the ineffable. And from the song of the grass, the heart becomes filled with longing. And when the heart is filled with song and with longing for Eretz Yisrael, a great light goes forth from the holiness of the land upon it. And from the song of the grass comes the melody of the heart. And we conclude with chanting this bracha, this blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai, המחזיר שכינתו לציון.
Amen. Page 487. Together, our ancestors acclaimed the God whose handiwork they read in the mysterious heavens above and in the varied scene of earth below, in the orderly march of days and nights, of seasons and years, and in the checkered fate of humankind. So lift up your eyes, look up. Who made the stars? Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha u'lecha na'eh. We continue now on page 490. Grant peace, goodness and blessing, grace and kindness and mercy to us and to all your people, Israel. Bless us, our Creator, all of us together, through the light of your presence. Together we say, truly through the light of your presence, Adonai, our God, you gave us a Torah of light, the love of kindness, justice and blessing, mercy, life, and peace. May you see fit to bless your people, Israel, at all times, at every hour, with your peace. Praised are you, Adonai, who blesses your people Israel with peace.
Baruch atah Adonai, hamevarech et amo Yisrael, Shalom.
Amen. We continue now with Tefillah B'Lachash, silent prayer, taking into our thoughts the prayers of our hearts and of our souls. You may, if you wish, look at the prayers on page 492 that you can read from, or you can read from that which is inscribed upon each one of our hearts.
Oseh Shalom, Imranav, Uyaseh Shalom, Aleinu, Ve'al Yisrael, Ve'imeru, Amen. Oseh Shalom Imranav, Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru Amen. Oseh Shalom Imranav, Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru Amen.
We turn in our prayer books now to page 560. My grandson Sam was part of a group known as Heller High 2020. Heller High is the formal term for what used to be called EIE, a semester of high school study in Israel, sponsored by our Reform movement. Heller High is the new name, thanks to the generosity of the Ike and Helene Heller family, who have provided a substantial endowment for scholarship for the Heller High program. My grandson Sam left in the end of January for Heller High, filled with excitement. It would be not his first time that he would make pilgrimage to Israel. but this time he would be going for a semester and without being guided by the hand of his parents or his grandparents. He was truly excited. I went to visit him in the end of February and the first week of March. I said to him, "What do you love most about Heller High?" And he said to me, "Zadie," as he calls me, "I love getting up in the morning and looking out upon the Judean hills. There is nothing more beautiful in the entire world." Well, thanks to coronavirus, all of the 87 participants in the Heller High program were suddenly removed from their base just outside of Jerusalem and put on a chartered flight and returned to their parents' homes all over the United States and Canada. He wept for 2 days. And at the end of the weeping, when he dried his tears and wiped his face, I said to him, "What is it that you miss the most?" And he said to me, "I miss the most the beautiful hills, the Judean hills that lead to Jerusalem." For most of our ancestors, they only dreamed of being able to see and walk the hills that lead to Jerusalem. They experienced it vicariously through the words of our prayer book, our liturgy, as they turned, as we will in just a moment, to the words, the songs, the hymns of Hallel, the special section simply known by the title Hallel, songs of praise. Now, in truth, the Hallel gets its name not just from the words, but from the actions of the people of Israel and the Kohanim and Leviim, the priests and the Levites, who on this day would ascend from the lowest point near the Temple Mount, now known as Silwan, and walk up the ancient steps, still intact to this very day, all the way up to the Temple Mount in order to enter Har Habayit, the Temple Mount, first built by King Solomon. And they would sing songs of praise, Hallel, in a certain kind of cadence with each step they would take. And the people of Israel would follow them in doing so. And so now, this morning of Shavuot, we join together with the Kohanim and with the Leviim and with all of the people of Israel who have wound their way through the Judean hills, the beautiful Judean hills, to ascend up to Har Habayit, to give thanks and praise to the God of creation. We begin by chanting these words of the bracha for Hallel.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu likro et ha'Hallel.
Amen. Page 562.
B'tzeit Yisrael mitzrayim, Beit Yaakov me'am lo'ez. B'tzeit Yisrael mitzrayim, Beit Yaakov me'am lo'ez. Hayta Yehuda lekodsho, Yisrael mam shelotav, hayam רוויינוס הירדן ייסוב לאחור בצאת ישראל ממצרים בית יעקב מאמלואס מלך הים איתנוס הירדן תיסוב לאחור ההרים תרקדו חיילים כבאות כבני צאן מלפני אדון חולי ארץ מלפני אלוהי יעקב ההופכי חצור אגמים חלמיש למענו מים אדוני זכרנו יברך את בית ישראל יברך את בית אהרון יברך יראה אדוני הקטנים עם הגדולים יוסף אדוני עליכם מהפניכם ברוכים אתם לאדוני עושה שמיים בארץ השמיים לאדוני והארץ נתן לבני אדם לא המתים יהללויה ולא כל יורדי דומה ואנחנו נברך יה מעתה ועד עולם ואנחנו נברך יה hallelujah
564. How can I repay Adonai for all God's bounties to me? I raise up the cup of deliverance and invoke the name of Adonai. I will pay my vows to Adonai in the presence of all God's people. The death of God's faithful ones is grievous in Adonai's sight. Together we say, Adonai, I am your servant, the son of your maidservant. You have undone the cords that bound me. I will sacrifice a thanks offering to you and invoke the name of Adonai. I will pay my vows to Adonai in the presence of all God's people, in the courts of the house of Adonai, in the midst of Jerusalem. Hallelujah. Page 565. Page 567.
פתחו לי שערי צדק, אבובם אודיה. פתחו לי שערי צדק, אבובם אודיה. זה השער לאדוני, צדיקים יבואו. זה השער לאדוני, צדיקים יבואו. עודך כי ענתני ותהי לי לישועה. עודך כי ענתני ותהי לי לישועה. אבן מסו הבונים הייתה לראש פינה. אבן מסו הבונים הייתה לראש פינה. מאת אדוני הייתה זאת, היא נפלאת בעינינו. מאת אדוני הייתה זאת, היא נפלאת בעינינו. זה היום עשה אדוני, נגילה ונשמחה בו. זה היום עשה אדוני, נגילה ונשמחה בו. אנא אדוני הושיע נא.
אדוני הושיע נא.
הצליחה נא.
הצליחה נא. Could you feel being part of the throng of people ascending up to the top of Har Habayit, with the gates of opening, Sharei Tzedek, the gates opening up to allow us all to go in, to hear the words of Adonai? And that is what we will do now. We will hear the words first uttered by Moses as he came down from the mountain. More to be said about that later. Cantor Novik will chant for us this morning what are known as the Aseret HaDibrot, the 10 Commandments, recited on this very day, the symbol of the giving of the tablets, on page 539. I invite everyone to join. Maybe they're not on page 539. So we will listen instead as Cantor Nova chants for us each of the Aseret HaDibrot, the 10 Commandments, okay, just as we heard them at the foot of Mount Sinai. But before that, we join with her as a chorus of one in singing the bracha, the blessing before the reading of Torah.
Baruch et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai Mevorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Mevorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. וידבר אלוהים את כל הדברים האלה לאמור. אנוכי אדוני אלוהיך,
אשר הוצאתיך מארץ מצרים מבית עבדים, לא יהיה לך אלוהים אחרים על פניי. לא תשתת, לא תעשה לך פסל וכל תמונה אשר בשמיים ממעל, בארץ מתחת, אשר במים מתחת לארץ. לא תשתחווה להם ולא תעבדם, כי אנוכי אדוני אלוהיך אלקנה פוקד עוון אבות על בנים, על שילשים וערביים לשונאי, ועושה חסד לאלפים, לאוהבי ולשומרי מצוותיי. לא תישא את שם אדוני אלוהיך לשווא, כי לא ינקה אדוני את אשר יישא את שמו לשווא. זכור את יום השבת לקדשו, 6 ימים תעבוד ועשית כל מלאכתך, ביום השביעי שבת לאדוני אלוהיך. לא תעשה כל מלאכה אתה ובנך וביתך, עבדך ואמתך ובהמתך, וגרך אשר בשעריך, היא 6 ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, את הים ואת כל אשר בם, וינח ביום השביעי. על כן ברך אדוני את יום השבת ויקדשהו. כבד את אביך ואת אמך, למען יאריכון ימיך על האדמה, אשר אדוני אלוהיך נותן לך. לא תרצח, לא תנאף, לא תגנוב, לא תענה ברעך עת שקר, לא תחמוד בית רעך, לא תחמוד איש את רעך, ועבדו ואמתו ושורו וחמורו, וכל אשר לרעך. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת, וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. Now, as we give Martha an opportunity to catch her breath before we invite her to chant from the Haftarah, I invite you to hear these words from the Haftarah in English. How profound they are for our own day. They are an expression of God speaking to the people of Israel and saying to them, you and I, we are in covenant from times of old till the time of now. And in that covenant, you and I have a special purpose: to keep heaven and earth going just as I created it, and to bring about a world worthy of my presence. And these are the words of the prophet Isaiah. Thus says God, the Lord, who created the heavens and earth and stretched them out, who spread out the earth and what it brings forth, who gave breath to the people upon it and life to those who walk thereon. God said, I am the Lord. In my grace, I have summoned you, and I have grasped you by the hand and created you and appointed you to be a covenant people, a light unto the nations, opening eyes deprived of light, rescuing prisoners from confinement, from the dungeons, those who sit in darkness, I am the Lord, that is my name. I will not yield my glory to any other, nor my renown to idols. See, the things once predicted have now come, and now I foretell new things. Announce to you ere they sprout up. Shiru Adonai Shir Chadash, sing to the Lord a new song, God's praise from the ends of the earth. Now, the Haftarah in its original.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar b'nvi'im tovim, v'ratzah v'divreihem ha'ne'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai, abocher b'torah, u'v'Moshe avdo, u'v'Yisrael amo, ובנביאי האמת והצדק.
Amen.
אין עבדי את מחבוא, בחירי רצת נפשי. נתתי רוחי עליו, משפט לגויים יוציא. לא יצעק ולא יישא, ולא ישמיע בחוץ קולו. הנרצות לא ישבור, ופשטחיה לא יכבנה, לאמת יוציא משפט. לא יחיה ולא ירוץ, עד ישים בארץ משפט, ולתורתו אם יחלו. כה אמר האל אדוני, בורא השמיים בנותיהם, רוקח הארץ וצאצאיה, נותן נשמה לעם עליה, ורוח להולכים בה. אני אדוני, יראתיך בצדק, ואחזיק בידיך, ואצורך, ואתנך, לבריתם, לאור גויים, לפקוח עיניים עיוורות, להוציא ממסגר אסיר, מבית כלא יושבי חושך. אני אדוני הוא שמי, וכבודי לך אלוהיתן, ותהילתי לפסילים. הראשונות הנה באו, והחדשות אני מגיד, בטרם תצמחנה אשמיע אתכם. שירו לאדוני שיר חדש, תהילתו מקצה הארץ, יורדי הים ומלואו, איים ויושביהם. יישאו מדבר וערב, חצרים תשב קדר, ירונו יושבי סלע, מראש הרים יצבחו. ישימו לאדוני כבוד, ותהילתו באים יגידו. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, צור כל העולמים, צדיק בכל הדורות, האל הנאמן, האומר ועושה, המדבר ומקיים, שכל דבריו אמת וצדק, על התורה ועל העבודה ועל חג השבועות הזה, שנתת לנו אדוני אלוהינו, לששון ולשמחה, לכבוד ולתפארת. על הכל אדוני אלוהינו, אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך, יתברך שמך בפי כל חי, תמיד לעולם ועד. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh Yisrael v'hazmanim.
Amen. In a few moments, we will continue on page 574 and share in our Yizkor service. Recently, a friend of mine, his mother died. The funeral was not local in our area. He drove several hundred miles to the cemetery where she would be buried, where he and a few of his family members would gather together with the rabbi. And there they would hold a private funeral for his mother. And then he would return home for Shiva. I spoke with him as he was about to leave for the funeral, and we chatted. And in the middle of the conversation, I said to him, when you are at the cemetery, it so happens that that cemetery is the same cemetery where my own family members are buried. When you are at the cemetery, take pictures of the gravestones of each and all of your family members that are buried there. And he said to me, okay, I will. I don't think when he heard my instructions that he fully understood what it was that I was asking him to do, other than take some pictures, but he agreed. And then later, after the funeral was over and he was on his return home, I called him and he said to me, I took the pictures. And thank you for suggesting it. I didn't realize how important having those images would be. So this morning on this Shavuot, and at this moment as we prepare for Yizkor, I want to talk about stones. Some of you may have, I hope all of you have seen the movie History of the World Part 1, a great drama. I say that tongue in cheek. Mel Brooks movie can never quite be a drama, although many Mel Brooks movies have a double meaning to them, the outrageously funny and crazy and wacky side to them, and then the underbelly of the movie, of what he really wanted to say, only he felt that he couldn't do it because the drama would be too overwhelming for everyone. So you may remember that in the History of the World Part 1, there is a scene in which Moses comes down from the mountain to give the people of Israel the 3 tablets of the law, the 15 commandments. And as he is about to say, I have the commandments, he drops one of them and it crashes. And he then says, I have, and there's a pause, crash, 10 commandments, 2 tablets of the law. Well, the other day, as I was thinking about this service, I couldn't just leave it to Mel Brooks. So instead, I went to Charlton Heston to see what he had to say. And I typed into Google, Charlton Heston gives the tablets of the law. You may want to do it yourself at a later hour. There's Charlton Heston coming down from the mountain wearing, they didn't look like Birkenstock sandals, but nevertheless, he was wearing sandals. He's holding the tablets of the law. His face is as stern as Charlton Heston's could be, that granite chin. He looks down And who does he see? None other than Edward G. Robinson, playing the part of the terrible Datan who wants to return the people of Israel to the ways of Egypt. And they're all surrounding the golden calf. And Edward G. Robinson gets into this dialogue, so to speak, with Heston, and Heston gets increasingly angry, and in his anger, he throws down the tablets because of the sinning of the people of Israel. They're dancing around in an orgiastic way around the golden calf, and the calf bursts, and the tablets are smashed. Now, the rabbis of old didn't have the Charlton Heston scene, but they certainly, in their conversations, as they sat probably in Yavne, not far from Tel Aviv, trying to figure out how to restore Judaism to its glory, they engaged in conversation about that moment. They even envisioned in their words, and as the scribes wrote them down now in our rabbinic literature, what must have happened at that moment. And they asked a very profound question. So what happened to the broken shards of the tablets? Those pieces of stone, what happened to them? We know that Moses went back up to the top of the mountain, carved out 2 new tablets. We know that. And in that happening, oh, we love technology. And in that happening, he came back down, returned with a new set of tablets. And we know that that set of tablets was placed into the Ark of the Covenant, which eventually found its way to the temple in Jerusalem and became the centerpiece of the Temple Mount, of the place where the worship to God would take place. What happened to the other set of tablets? Were they just discarded, thrown away, left somewhere in the Sinai desert, never to be found? And the rabbis say no. The original set, the set that were destroyed because of the sinning of the people, those stones, they too are sacred. And so they were placed in the Ark of the Covenant together with the new tablets. Stones have enormous power. They remind us of moments in time. Some years ago, it was actually 1999, I took 2 of my cousins and we went to Sasav, now located in Western Ukraine. Actually, always located in Western Ukraine, only it wasn't always known as Western Ukraine. It was known as Galicia to Jews, or as the Pale of Settlement to historians. We went to Sasav because that's the place where our grandparents were born and where they grew up and where they experienced Jewish life, both in its joy and in its pain, and from which they fled, eventually to come to America's open borders and promising shores filled with hope to create a new life. In Sasav, I went to the Jewish cemetery. Now, picture this with me, if you would. There's a fence all the way around, a black wrought iron fence. It's a pretty big cemetery. In various places along the way in the fence, there are Jewish stars, carved, so to speak, in the wrought iron. So you know it's a Jewish cemetery. There's an entrance, very simple, just part of the wrought iron, an opening. And you walk in, and all that you see is grass and weeds. Cut fairly well, not too high, so you can walk around. And there is, in the middle of the cemetery, one ohel, one little building, and nothing else. If you close your eyes and try to think back, you can see the cemetery filled with several thousand stones, tombstones, most of them taken away and used for other purposes, to build roads, to do all kinds of stuff, crazy stuff that the fascist Nazis had in mind, which they considered to be these stones for better use, in quotes. And in that ohel, there's a little window, and if you look in the window, you can see two stones, two tablets. They are for the rabbi of Sasav, known as the Sasaver Rav, of the great Hasidic Sasaver dynasty, and his wife. And there is nothing else in the cemetery. We said Kaddish there, and chanted Emanu-El, and remembered our loved ones. And then I looked down, and there was a stone that could fit into my hand, about the size of a stone. Imagine it that you can put in your hand. I picked it up. It clearly had been a stone from a gravestone. It wasn't a natural stone from the area. There's nothing else there. It had to have been from a tombstone, maybe my great-grandparents' tombstone, I don't know. And I picked it up as if it was sacred contraband and placed it in my bag and took it home. I call it my Sasaver stone. It has traveled with me vicariously through my journey since 1999 because it sits on my desk, a simple stone, nothing engraved upon it, but always known as the Sasaver stone. And it connects me to my family members who I didn't know, but who will always be a part of me. Some years later, I was visiting the military cemetery in Jerusalem at Har Herzl, Mount Herzl. I stood in front of the stone, the grave of Michael Levin. Now, for those of you who don't know the name Michael Levin, although in some ways it should be considered a household name for Jews from this area, Michael Levin grew up in suburban Philadelphia. He decided that he would join the IDF, the Israel Defense Forces. And so he went, he underwent the initial military training, and he was part of a unit. And he was on some vacation time, and he returned home to visit with his parents and family members, and the war broke out at the northern border of Israel with Lebanon. And he said, I have to go back. I have to be with the members of my unit. And so he did. And he joined the unit, and that night, Michael Levin was killed by a sniper fire. His family members decided that he would be buried in Har Herzl, a symbol of the country that he loved. And from time to time, his mother, as you can well imagine, flies to Israel just to visit the grave of her son. Now, every member of the Israel military has, I forgot the Hebrew term for this, but has a little tchotchke, if you will, a little. It's a. I don't want to quite call it a thermos. It's a little thing in which you can boil water. You can put it in your knapsack so that you can carry it with you, and at night or during the day when you're bored or whatever, you can take it out and with a little can of you can light it, and you can heat up the water in it, and you can make coffee or tea. Israeli soldiers do that all the time, because if anyone here has been in the army, they know that there's a lot of downtime in armies. Well, on one of her visits, Mrs. Levin got off the plane at Ben Gurion, took a cab right to Jerusalem, right to Har Herzl, and when she was approaching the grave of her son, she saw, to her great shock, a young man sitting on the ground, boiling water with that little piece in front of her son's grave. She was furious. And she started to yell and scream at him, and he stopped her and said, "Mrs. Levin, you don't understand. Whenever Michael and I had free time and we left the military base to go to Jerusalem, where we had shared an apartment, we would sit on the mirpeset, on the balcony, and we would take these little units and boil water and make coffee and dream. I miss him so very much, my friend Michael. So I come here every time I'm in Jerusalem, and we drink coffee together." She looked at him and said to him, "Come here again and again and again, and drink coffee with my Michael, and continue to dream." Now, on another visit to that same cemetery, with a group of fellow travelers from my congregation, we walked through the cemetery, and as we did, I noticed that one of the little girls on the trip, maybe 7, 8 years old, that each time we stopped, she would walk over to one of the graves, because she noticed that on the top of the grave, there were pebbles, little stones. And she would take her hand like this, and she'd take the little pebbles of the stones and brush them into her hand as if to clean the stone. She did this a number of times, and I noticed, and when I did, I said to her, "Can I tell you why those pebbles are there?" And she said, "Okay." And I said, "Those pebbles are there because, well, to serve as a reminder that the person who's buried here has not been forgotten. They're pebbles, they're stones of love. And that's why they're there." And with that, she picked up some of the stones she had dropped to the ground, walked over to the grave, placed one on one grave and then on another. And I know that from that moment on, stones had a totally new meaning for her, unlike any meaning she had ever considered before. So today, this morning on Shavuot, we're thinking about stones. Not tombstones, but stones. Stones that have inscribed upon them reminders of memory, reminders of moments when we shared with our loved ones in their life and ours. Stones that can never be removed, stones that hold a sacred place in our life's journey, and stones that help to strengthen us along the way. I invite us all now to take a moment or two to consider the sacred stones in our lives, the matzeva, the memorials of loved ones, the images of which we have not just on our iPhones, our cell phones, but inscribed upon our hearts as we prepare for our observance of Yizkor, which will be on page 574. And in a moment, we'll begin by the beautiful singing of Cantor Novik as she leads us in Adonai Ma'adam.
Adonai Ma'adam Batei Daehu Enosh Batechashvehu Adam Lahevel Dama Yama Kitzilover Aboker Yatzit Echala La'erev Yiboler Ve'yavesh Tashev Enosh Adaka Vatomer Shuvu B'nei Adam Lo chachmu yaskilu zot Yavinu lacharitam Ilo v'moto yikach hakol Lo yered acharav kevodo Shmarta morei yashar Ki acharit leish shalom Adonai nefesh avadav Velo yishmu kol achosim bo.
Birth is a beginning and death a destination. And life is a journey from childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength or strength to weakness and often back again, from health to sickness and back we pray to health again, from offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion and grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Yes, birth is a beginning and death a destination, but life is a journey from birth to death to life everlasting. Page 576.
מזמור לדוד. אדוני רואי לו אחזור, ינודה שירביצני, על מי מנוחות ינהלני. נפשי שובר, ינחני ומהג לצדק, למען שמו. כי ילך בקץ המוות, לא ירא רע, יתה עמדי. שבטך ומשענתך, המה ינחמוני. תערוך לפני שולחן נגד צורריי, ישנת בשמן ראשי, כוסי רוויה. אך טוב וחסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי, ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים.
Together we read a Psalm of David. Adonai is my shepherd, I lack nothing. God makes me lie down in green pastures. God leads me to water in places of repose. God renews my life. God guides me in right paths as befits God's name. Though I walk through a valley of deepest darkness, I fear no harm, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You spread a table before me in full view of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my drink is abundant. Only goodness and steadfast love shall pursue me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of Adonai for many long years. Page 579. L'chol ish yesham. Each person, every person, has a name. We each have a name given by God and given by our father and mother. We each have a name given by our stature and smile and given by our attire. We each have a name given by the hills and given by the walls. We each have a name given by the stars and given by our friends. We each have a name given by our sins and given by our yearnings. We each have a name given by our enemies and given by love. We each have a name given by celebrations and given by our work. We each have a name given by the seasons and given by our blindness. We each have a name given by the sea and given by our death. Page 580 and 81. I invite each one of us now to reflect on the memory of a loved one, a mother, a father, a son, a daughter, a husband, a wife, a sister, a brother, a friend. Each one of them had a name, names given to them, and now names inscribed on stones, intended to be memorials, to be recalled each day along our life's journey, and especially at moments such as this. I invite us now to enter silent Yizkor. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we remember them. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember them. In the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember them. In the blueness of the sky and in the warmth of summer, we remember them. In the rustling of the leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember them. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember them. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember them. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember them. When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember them. So long as we live, they too shall live, for they are now a part of us as we remember them. We continue on page 582 as we rise for El Malei Racham.
El Malei Rachamim, Shochin Bamronim, Ametzim Menucha Nechona, Achat Kanfei Hashchina, Im Kedoshim Utohorim, Kezohar Harakia, Masirim. Nishmat Yakirenu, Shalchu Leolamam, Ba'al Harachamim, Yastirem Beseter Kenafav, Laolamim, Bitzror HaChaim et Nishmatam, Adonai Nachalatam, V'yanuchu b'shalom al mishkavam, v'nomar Amen.
Fully compassionate God on high, to our loved ones who have entered eternity, grant clear and certain rest with you in the lofty heights of the sacred and pure, whose brightness now shines like the very glow of heaven. Source of mercy, forever enfold them in the embrace of your wings. Secure their souls in eternity. Adonai, they are yours. They will rest in peace. And together we say, Amen.
Amen.
We remain standing and continue with Aleinu on page 586.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Please be seated. We continue on page 591. May we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding. Loved each of us for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hand, but to conquer fear and doubt and despair. Together, rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו, ושמו, ושמו אחד.
We continue on page 596. You and I, every one of us, we have lived in numberless towns and villages, and in too many of them we have endured cruel suffering. Some we have forgotten, others are sealed in our memory, a wound that will never heal. 100 generations of victims and martyrs, and still their blood cries out from the earth. And so many at Dachau, at Buchenwald, at Babi Yar. What can we say? What can we do? How bear the unbearable, or accept what life has brought to our people? All who are born must die, but how shall we compare the slow passage of time with the callous slaughter of the innocent, cut off before their time? They lived with faith. Not all, but many. And surely many died with faith, that language that we use to articulate what we know to be true. A faith in God, a faith in life, in the goodness that even flames cannot destroy. May we find a way to the strength of that faith, that trust, that sure sense that life and soul endure beyond this body's death. They have left their lives to us. So let a million prayers rise whenever Jews worship. Let a million candles glow against the darkness of the unfinished lives. At this moment, we recall all of our loved ones. And we also recall those who have been taken from our midst only during these last 30 days. We recall Julius Grant, father of Linda Fellman, Erwin Rockland, father of Kelly Cohn, Dorothy Golish, mother of David Golish, Irv Winokur, grandfather of Allie Ehrlichman, Nicholas Gold, son of Fran and Dan Gold. And we also recall the name of George Floyd. He has become a symbol for each and every one of us, a symbol that has seared our hearts, but a symbol nevertheless that we can never forget. And that the work of Tikkun Olam, of repairing this world, remains in our hands with still so much to be done. I invite all of us now to rise and join together on page 598 as we recite these words of faith, the words of Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chaye echon v'yom echon uv'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael, v'agala uv'izman kariv v'imru, Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach olam u'lamei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, Yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei dekudesha barichu le'ela minko birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata amiran v'alma v'kiyam hey shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael say shalom bimromav u'ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the source of peace grant peace to all who mourn and comfort to all the bereaved among us. And together let us say, Amen. Please be seated. In a moment, we'll conclude our worship with the singing of Esai on page 643. And please allow me to express my thanks again to Mandy Zucker for serving as our technician and doing so ably this morning, and special gratitude to Cantor Martha Novick for sharing together in this beautiful service once again. I also want to remind everyone that this Friday evening, Shavuot Services at 6 o'clock with a service of confirmation, congregation of 34 confirmands, okay? Perhaps one of the largest number of confirmands in all of North America, something for Temple Emanu-El to take real pride in having raised up such a wonderful group. And then next Friday morning, please join us in our challah drive-by. We have all been locked down and kept in our homes, and in some ways we still are, but next Friday, even though the building is not open, members of our clergy team, together with Abra Lee and Cantor Michelle Rubel, we will all be standing in the parking lot of the temple, distributing chalot to each and every one of you who come to the temple to pick them up. Please use this as an opportunity to be able to greet each of us, and for all of us to be able to greet you, and as an opportunity to say thanks and to wish shalom to Abra Lee and Cantor Rubel as they prepare to depart for the next stage of their life's journey. You can check on the temple website to see the exact time in the morning when the drive-by will begin. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we've ordered a lot of challahs, if we actually run out at the very end, because so many people have come for the drive-by challah moment in the temple. I want to wish each and every one of us a Chag Sameach, a wonderful Chag Shavuot. I hope you're going to have balinces and dairy for lunch. And now let's join with Cantor Novick in singing Esa Enai on page 643. Chag Sameach to one and all.
Chag Sameach. Beautiful service, Rabbi.
Thank you, Martha. You too.
Chag Sameach, everybody.
Chag Sameach, everyone.
Thank you, Mandy.